Welcome, everyone, to the 2021 Design Showcase West virtual celebration and portfolio review. Thanks to the Paramount Network, I have the great pleasure to interview costume designer Janetta Boone, the person responsible for the great look and feel of the hit series Yellowstone. Janetta, I'm going to read your bio, so prepare to be embarrassed. Janetta is a costume designer and a stylist who has creatively collaborated on commercials, still photography, television, and feature film productions for more than 3 decades. I hope that's not too long. I hope that doesn't date you. She has contributed to every genre, lending her talent to period, contemporary, and Western stories, and designing every kind of uniform, including for sports teams. She began her career by partnering with such notable photographers as Reuben and Fatador while at German Vogue and other fashion magazines. And not long after studying at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, Johnnetta's dreams of designing costumes for the motion picture industry became a reality. Washington, D.C. served as a background for her costuming skills when she collaborated on K Street, directed by Steven Soderbergh and executive produced by George Clooney and Grant Heslov. Her designs infused flair and her inimitable style into DC's stuffy beltway. Johnetta's costume design for the now classic Cadillac Records put her on the Hollywood map. And for Greenleaf, a dark television drama about a family and their megachurch, Johnetta created the entire world of Memphis society. She is the one who brings the people of Yellowstone to life with her thoughtful and authentic costuming. It is cable's most watched show of 2020, produced by the Paramount Network. Johnetta is an artist and a costume designer who is immersed in film and in culture, and she is now poised to enjoy a game-changing career in the entertainment multiverse.
Oh my gosh, that.
I know. Well, multiverse, I always like to think that we can design anything, right? So why not a multiverse?
Yes, multiverse. I love it. That was absolutely fantastic.
So I have to ask you. I have questions, and then I just have more questions, and we only have 30 minutes. So let's see how far we can get.
Okay.
How did this project find you?
Ruth Carter. Ruth Carter and I worked together in the 90s, actually, but we've stayed in contact. So when Ruth couldn't do the show going forward into season 2, she and Paul Simmons, who's her costume supervisor, put their minds together and reached out to me. Paul had actually known, he gave me a little bit of a heads up, and I was on Greenleaf at the time. So I wasn't able to sneak away any earlier, but when she absolutely couldn't go back for season 2, that's when it all came to fruition. And she shared my work with Taylor Sheridan, who's the creator, and he said, yes. And it was such a warm welcome. Oh my gosh, it was like going to a family reunion. It was insane.
Wait, and but a Western, I mean, so did your work prepare you? Did your past design work prepare you for Yellowstone?
No, I've never done a Western before. It was on my bucket list. You know, I hate to say bucket list because then that means that you want to do something much farther down the road, but it was on my list of goals of things to do. I had not done a Western before, but Yellowstone is so contemporary, entrenched in contemporary iconic looks that they had enough confidence that I would be able to pull it off. And I'm so happy that I was able to actually meet their expectations, you know?
Well, yeah, except what I want to know really is about the research process. How did
Yes.
you, from 0 to 60,
Yes.
immerse yourself in cowboy culture?
Yes. So it was quite interesting to immerse myself in cowboy culture. I quite honestly used to go horseback riding every weekend when I was a kid, an urban cowboy world, you know, because I live in DC. So we'd go out on the weekends. And actually, where I live, right down the street from where I live, are cowboys who perform in the Bill Pickett's rodeo, which so I actually had an immediate leg into the whole cowboy environment. And my husband's friends have horses, so I knew exactly where to go to get information and to do my research. It was so exciting. And then to reach further into the cowboy world, just sort of through social media. You know, social media is great in a lot of respects because unlike in magazines, you know, everything is poised, but in social media, it's all real life. So you can click on at any moment and see what people are doing and who they are. And that really gives you the meat of your research. It's quite great, actually.
Well, and it's so much more difficult actually than designing a period show, getting a contemporary show right,
Yes.
especially in this very recognizable society. I mean, there are people around, these are just supposed to be people now. So you have to make them real, right?
Yes. So, and a lot of times, you know, we have quite a bit of our cast that are actually ranch hands or they own ranches themselves. So I didn't have to make them real because they are real in that world. But we do have, you know, our actors who have to be morphed into becoming cowboys. And it was quite, you know, it's still quite interesting because they don't really understand the nuances of being in that world. And so costumes actually helps them build their characters from the ground up. It gives them everything that they need to sort of sit down in the saddle, you know?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the ground up. Tell me about the boots.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So the boots are, you know, cowboy boots are fantastic because there's so many different kinds. You've got so many different heels. You've got a Cuban heel, you've got a walking heel, you've got a riding heel. You know, it's everything from the type of toe. You've got a round toe and a square toe, and then you've got now the more contemporary cowboy boots have a rubber sole because it gives you more grounding and more, you know, you're able to plant a little bit better as opposed to a leather sole also when it gets wet because they work all throughout the year. It could be raining or snowing or sunny or all that in one day if you're in Montana, depending on where you're living. So you want to be able to have, you know, proper traction and also stability and to be able to move about in your environments regardless of what your weather is.
And
Not to mention all the cow poop.
and did your actors did they come with a very specific idea of what shape heel and what shape toe and which brand? Did the actors bring that to you or
They
did
did
you?
not. The only, I would say probably only one or two actors actually knew the distinction of the different heels and the toe box. But for the most part, it was all, you know, I looked at them and decided what it was that would fit best with their body type and also with the work that they were doing that allowed me to select the toe box for them. And then the heel makes sense because it's what works in the stirrups that you have to work on. And it's not, Cuban heels are a little more trendy and people wear them out when they're going to a dressier environment or occasion. And the more stacked, sort of a squared heel is what they use when they're working every day.
Let's just spend one more minute because these are my notes. My notes were boots, jeans,
Yes.
hats, belt buckles.
Yes, yes, yes. Not necessarily in that order. So here we go. We did the boots, the jeans. In the world, it's so amazing because Wrangler has gotten a whole new life because of Yellowstone. Wrangler is your iconic, it's like a Levi, but in the Western world, Wrangler absolutely rules. So everyone wears Wrangler jeans. They wear them 6 inches too long because when you're on a horse, you don't want them to be high waters. So what surprised me is when you had someone who's a 32 length, or you know they're 32 length because they're 5'9", for instance, and I get their jean size and they say, well, I'm a 32, 36, sometimes 38. And I'm thinking, how tall are you? And they'll say, I'm 5'9". And I think, There's no way you wear 36-inch jean length if you're 5'9". And then you're really educated in why it is that their jeans are 4 inches too long. Because when
Wow.
they're in that saddle, the jean fits perfectly on the vamp of the boot so that it's not too high. It's pretty great, actually. Then we go to the
Wow.
cuts. They all wear cowboy cuts for the most part. Only a couple wear a straight cut, but absolutely not a skinny jean, which is what everybody wears, off the saddle, because you won't have any room to go anywhere. And then it's not a low rise because it will come, you'll see things that you don't want to see when they're on the horse. So it's a true waist. Cowboys wear their jeans at their waistline, which I love. And then on top of that, it's the wash. Some of them we've got one character, Lloyd, who's 40, and he's been a cowboy, I don't know, for as long as he's been alive. And he starches his jeans with a crease down the center, and he wears that sharp denim, and he looks amazing when he walks out. It's actually quite incredible. So then let's go to Buckles. So cowboys who have been working, they've earned their buckles. They are rodeo buckles. They've earned them by performing and competing in rodeos. So because our characters don't actually work on ranches and perform or compete in rodeos, we had custom buckles made. Forey's belt buckle, actually, the belt buckle that he wears is one that he won. So we reached out to the vendor and had replicas made because we wanted to have them in our arsenal instead of having them live with him at his home every day. So when he came to work, we had his buckle, but he had his own too, so he wore that. And then for our other actors, if you're coming in and you're a barrel racer, we made buckles that had your character name and had a showmanship of what it is that you competed in last. So, and the buckles are in brass with copper and rubies. I mean, they're really quite elaborate. I wanted to get one made with my name on it, but it would
It's
have
going
to
to
say
happen.
costume designer.
It's
It has
going
to
to
say
happen.
costume designer instead of a roper or barrel racer or something,
Yeah, I think you deserve it.
Yeah.
Hey, Paramount.
It would be a dead giveaway if I said barrel racer.
Your buckle's on its way, Janetta.
Yes, thank you so much, Deborah. Thank you. And then let's see, what am I missing? It was belts, buckles, and hats. So Here we go. The hat shape is very specific. You've got everything from the hat shape that is your standard cowboy, you've got a rustler, you've got a gambler, you've got so many different shapes. There's probably over 24 shapes of cowboy hats. Also, there's different shapes in the crown. So you've got the shape of the hat matches the shape of your face. And then the height of the crown, it's all very specific. And the colors of the hats are specific. Ranchers, ranch hands who work on a ranch wear certain colors. The owner of the ranch wears certain colors. It's, oh my gosh. And
just
hold
on.
Yes.
Walk me through that a little bit.
Yes.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Just give me some examples.
Yes. So we have, let's see, we have, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head. We've got very specific hat shapes that Kevin wears because he owns the ranch. And then there are very specific hat shapes. Kevin plays John Dutton. And then there are very specific hat shapes that the ranch hands wear as well. And it's because of their tasks that they do or how it's going to protect them, because cowboy hats are designed, and the reason why they have the shape where they curl up is because when it rains, it keeps the water off your face. And sometimes it tips down in the front to keep the sun off of your face. So all those things really come into play, their functionality. It's not just for style. It's not just, oh, give me a 10-gallon hat. It's actually for a particular reason and a function. And I love it. No one would imagine that a cowboy hat would be worn out in the rain, but absolutely, in the rain, in the snow, in the sun, it's worn every day, all day. And when you have cowboy hats that are of a particular quality, then they last throughout decades. I've had some hats. I really learned a lot about hats because you've got a 6X hat, which is a very inexpensive cowboy hat, and you could go all the way up to a 10 triple X or a 50 double X, and that means that it's predominantly animal fur as opposed to felt. So that was also quite wonderful, because if it's predominantly animal fur, animals are out in the environment all day and all night. So your hat's not going to shrink, or the shape of it isn't going to collapse under the pressure of the environment of the weather. It stays in its own place.
So that is a mini masterclass.
Yeah.
Within a masterclass, that is a mini masterclass on cowboy hats.
Yes.
Well, I have to say that you have captured in the show the natural elegance of the cowboy. And they are so elegant. Even the ranch hands are elegant. Do you know what I mean by that?
I do very much, and I appreciate you so greatly for saying that. Thank you. It's actually, it's somewhat of a task sometimes, because you just want to remain authentic to the environment, and you also want to make sure that people do not think differently of you because you're not a cowboy. And so but they don't, I've gotten people who 100% appreciate everything that we're doing on the screen for Yellowstone, that is both within and outside of the realm of the cowboy world. And it's actually given people a little bit more of a opportunity to come out of their own comfort zone and try things maybe a little bit different in terms of color, or in terms of that new Kimes Ranch jean, or there's some brands that they may not necessarily wear, but that they would consider trying.
Tell me, you're going into season 3.
Yes.
How have your characters, or the people of Yellowstone, moved on? And we haven't talked about the women at all. So could you talk a little bit about Monica and Beth Dutton, and how their clothes are evolving with their character?
Yes. So Beth Dutton, she's of course the favorite of everyone because of her delivery. She's got that, she comes with a punch. She is undoubtedly a powerhouse. And so her clothing, her costumes have evolved in that way. They started with a very sort of monochromatic look. She was she loved just having a shirt and a skirt on. That was her uniform. She wanted to have a collar, a man style shirt, and a skirt to make her more feminine, but she was also remaining your sort of ballbuster, kind of, if I'm allowed to say that. We shifted her over as the seasons developed into wearing more pantsuits as well, which she started off doing a couple of times, but we also allowed her to have more structure and angles with her suits. And then they became a little bit more fitted. And then in some cases, we gave her a little softness so that would also appeal to her femininity, but not without taking away her power. So it was pretty great. And she absolutely loves all the transitions that she goes through, and as well as introducing some native jewelry. She loves very much wearing vintage sterling turquoise pieces, namely earrings and occasionally rings. And they were great finds that I was able to come up with both in Utah and Montana from going to some dealers. It was fantastic. I couldn't get enough of the richness of that world of native jewelry. It's phenomenal. And then for Monica, it was really great to be able to keep to her native heritage. She very much, she wants to stay separate and apart from the Dutton family. And at the same time, she's married to a Dutton, of course. So she appreciates what the Dutton family has, but at the same time, she wants to make sure that she stays grounded, and that Tate, her son, also stays grounded and rooted in their culture. So we kept her dressed in Native American pieces without being overtly so, in the patterns or in the tones, also for her, and then also sometimes in shapes as well.
Janetta, I'm going to quote you. You said each character has a color palette that they live in.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about Monica and Beth's color palettes? And are they going to continue like a thread you pull throughout the seasons?
Yes. So Beth's color palette is very strong. We keep her in the power colors. You know, in that world, in the world of doing business, people wear grays and navy blue and black almost all the time. And
Yeah.
they only kick in a bit of color if it means something. So red, for instance, is a very strong color. So people don't typically wear red unless they really want to communicate a really strong tone, even before they arrive. I always say to people, before a word comes out of your mouth, people have already determined who you are and whether or not they believe you or whether or not they actually are going to converse with you. So color is really important because it does provide a line that people either cross or they don't cross. So for Beth, she keeps in the stone colors, again in navy, grays, and blacks, because we want to make sure that she maintains that presence of being all about business. And Monica, on the other hand, because she's native, it's okay to go with with earthly tones for her to keep her grounded, sort of in the hues of um, red rock and in the hues of the reservation. And the reservation uses primary colors. So I've given myself liberty to use primary colors occasionally, but for the most part, it's always around the earth. They love the earth. For the Native Americans, of course, the indigenous people, the earth is a living, breathing entity. So they have so much appreciation for it. And that's also present in their colors and their fabrications.
So, Janetta, I'm guessing that if I went into your costume stock and I saw Monica's rack and I saw Beth's rack, I would know them instantly.
Absolutely. You would absolutely know. First of all, you don't see any cowboy shirts in Beth's line at all. Uh, maybe only one, but if you see it, it's by a particular brand. And she, Monica is very casual in what she wears. Even when she dresses, if she dresses for dinner or when she dresses as a teacher, it's always very, it has a little bit of an ethnic vibe without being overtly so. And Beth is always all about business, although she does do those pencil dresses really well. So that's where we have a little bit of fun. And then we also have fun in her outerwear, or she may have, that one piece during the season that is the head turner, and everyone runs out to get it, and every brand tries to replicate it. So, but it's still Beth, and clearly Monica wouldn't wear that piece herself.
Um, I do want to ask you, because you also talked about reading a script more than once, and we're coming to a close in our discussion. But I do want to ask you about your relationship with Taylor Sheridan, how much you know about the forthcoming season, and how much he relies on you
Yes.
to bring your knowledge, your taste, and your talent to every single one of these episodes.
Yes. So Taylor Sheridan is amazing. He's our creator. He's sometimes our director. He's our executive producer. He's also a cowboy. He owns a ranch, so he knows everything about the ranch world.
Oh,
And
wow.
that right there sets him apart from your average director, executive producer, creator, writer. Sometimes people don't have the opportunity or haven't come from living in that world. So when because he's from that world, he knows exactly what he's expecting in that world. And he relies on me and all of us, all of the creative and the department heads, to know what it is that world ensues. I of course know what's coming in season 4. We filmed it already. We actually just finished filming it, the last day of it, yesterday. And it's quite exciting. I don't even know if people are ready for it, but it's important to read the script 2 or 3 times. Sometimes I read it honestly 5 or 6 times, because there's always some word or some sentence dropped in that will tell you so much about the character, or the environment. So when you know about the environment, and if there's not a lot of information about the character, you can shape a background story for the character that then gives you everything that you need to provide the look for the character. And that's what's really, really important. Most people may not understand that we all have a background story, and the background story is what determines who you are. Either you're running from your background or you're running towards your background to mimic the people in your life who are successful in one way, shape, or another. So it's really quite interesting. And scripts for a TV show are different like a movie, because with a TV show, you have different episodes. Well, so with Yellowstone, there's 10 episodes. However, Yellowstone is shot like a movie. So it doesn't mean that each episode is different with different characters and different environments and different venues. Everything sort of loops all, it's one long story, which is quite fantastic. So the characters travel throughout the life of the show. Some make it and some don't, you know, but, and it's different how they make it. Some, you know, as you watch, I'm not going to give anything away just in case you haven't seen the show at all. I want to give you the opportunity to click in, because I promise you'll binge watch it from season 1 all the way to the end. And then you might replay it again a couple of times because it's such a good show. Each time you look at it, you see a different thing, or you feel a different way, because the countryside is incredibly beautiful, and because the cast is incredible with their delivery, not just in how they perform, but also in what they're doing within their scenes. It's a great show, you guys. So with that being said, it is.
Yeah, with that being said, I have to give you the put-ups, because part of those characterizations is your work and your attention to detail, and we've really heard it over the last 30 minutes. Janetta, I'm going to keep you for one more second.
Sure.
Words to the wise for students. Words to the wise.
Words to the wise for students. Always, always, always do your due diligence to study. You're going to study your script just like you study for that exam, because it is an exam to a certain degree. You want to learn as much as you can about your characters, and you want to be able to replicate the vision of the creator, because that's our job. We are hired to produce the visual, the imagery that supports what the writers and the creators are doing. Sometimes we get to have a little fun with it. Sometimes we have to stick to the line. But when you're sticking to the line, do so with love and also with passion. Never lose your passion for what you're doing. If you fall off and you find yourself disinterested, just find something to pick up to get you back connected with it. And also know that life is your research. That's some place to look first. There's nothing more than available than what's right in front of you. I was telling my costumers actually just the other day, look at everything and capture those images in your mind, because you're going to pull on that research one day for something, whether it's the bus driver or the police officer or the homeless person, or you're on vacation and you see a bunch of cowboys. You never know when you're going to be able to pull on that research for a project that you have been introduced to, that you're preparing for in your interview stage, or whether it's one that you have been able to win the golden ticket to become the costume designer for that show. And then you're pulling on that research so that you can create the imagery for your characters. Because without us, our characters in some cases have no basis to go on. Oftentimes they come into the first fitting not knowing exactly who the character is. And so for the most part, they rely on us to assist them in developing the character. And the best way you can do that is be prepared.
That was wonderful. Couldn't have said it better myself, Janetta. Thank you so much for being with us today. And thanks so much to the Paramount Network. Everybody should be watching this series. We can't wait to see series 4, especially me. I wore my shirt.
Yes, you did.
You. And thank you, everybody. Please, everybody log on, Janetta, you too, to Design Showcase West.
Yes.
Go to the website. You'll enjoy it so much.
Yes.
All right, Janetta, good luck with everything.
Thank you so much. And I'm looking forward to actually reviewing the Design Showcase West. I am just really pleased to be able to be a part of that. And thank you so much, Deborah. It was an incredible experience having this opportunity to speak with you about Yellowstone. And thank you, Paramount. Yellowstone's a fantastic show. Thank you, UCLA. Thank you for the invitation. It's absolutely a joy being here. And I look forward to your students learning something from this opportunity and this conversation.
All right. Bye, Janetta.
Bye-bye.